Welcome into Boxing Scene's top stories here on ProBox TV. Download the ProBox TV app. Never fall behind in your boxing news. Also, best way to watch our Wednesday night fights. So, if you want to know who the pound-for-pound king is in boxing, 9 times out of 10, look at the welterweight division. The number one guy there is amongst the best. When you look at the top competition in a weight class, a lot of times it's welterweight. Yet again, throughout my life, names like Oscar De La Hoya, Sweet Pea, Pernell Whitaker, Felix Trinidad, some of the best like Floyd Mayweather, went through 147 pounds. Right now, it's having a lot of trouble. A great symptom of that was Duran Boots Ennis, and his showdown with Brian Norman Jr. has been botched. Purse bid did not work out. He's fighting Karan Chukajan, a guy he already beat. This is a rematch of a wipeout fight. Gentlemen, I'm joined by Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and ESPN boxing analyst Timothy Bradley. Chris, is this whole Boots Ennis, who's he going to fight next? He ends up in a rematch. Is this a symptom of what's going on at welterweight?
I think it's a symptom of what's going on in the sport. You know, we're not able to make fights anymore. Guys are not fighting each other, and there's a bunch of talented guys at welterweight. You know, you mentioned Boots Ennis. There's a guy Mario Barrios I think is a very, very good fighter. Is ever improving as well. Stanionis I think he's excellent. He just hasn't gotten a shot. None of eyes have been on these guys. So there's a lot of talent in the division. But it's apparently very difficult to make these fights. We have 2 champions. You got Brian Norman Jr., you got Duran Boots Ennis. They were in discussions to make this fight happen. It falls through. How does that happen? How does that fall through? How do these fights not get made? We're in the unification era. We're in the 4-belt era. We're seeing a lot of unifications across the board in the sport in general. But we're seeing a lot of guys avoiding other guys. We have weight classes that are full of undefeated fighters, and they all have titles. How is that possible? We need to have these fighters be able to fight each other. Part of it is the promotions, part of it's fight camps, part of it's negotiating, part of it is market inflation, which we've talked about in other shows here. I don't think it's just the welterweight division. I think it's the sport today. It's the era that we're in. You know, there's that great interview that James Toney was talking about. My era was better than this era because we all fought each other back then. These guys don't fight each other. And he's right. He's right, because we do have a lot of talent and stars. These people can be stars. These guys can be stars of the sport, but they need to get out there. They need to fight each other. They need their marquee dance partners so the world can understand how good they are. Duran Boots Ennis, it could easily take over this sport. He's one of the best fighters in the world today, one of the most talented guys around. And he's not getting the fights, so people don't know who he is. So I think a lot of it has to do with the sport today in terms of not making the fights happen that people need to see, not as much that it's just the welterweight division. Because there is some talented guys there and there are some names. So unfortunately, we're not getting these fights, and negotiating is apparently becoming more and more difficult to make these fights.
Paulie, when you look at it, Eddie Hearn, of course, not making his purse bid got beat by, I think, $250,000. The idea that he would have lost money on the Brian Norman Jr. fight, but does he have to do that? Is this one of those things where you might take a bath on one fight, but it's worth it for the future investment, for more people to see Boots Ennis? What's your thought on the financials of that decision?
Yeah, you know, sometimes I think a promoter has to make that investment. I just think that when promoters sign champions, they think that, okay, that's not an investment anymore. That, you know, I'm going to sign him and I'm going to assure him that I'm going to get him the best fights possible. I shouldn't have to pay into this anymore. It's not a prospect. Well, in this situation, you know, Boots maybe could have used a little bit of a sort of financial injection from Matchroom, and maybe Matchroom could make a fight where they wouldn't make as much money or take a loss just to get the notoriety of Boots going. Or otherwise, what else are you really going to do? And you're not doing for Boots anything else that anybody else couldn't do already. You know what I mean? So there's not really a change in the Boots Ennis business right now, you know? But boxing in general, you know, Champ, you made points with market inflation and fights not happening. You know, the welterweight division is so low in talent right now. There's a handful of guys that we want to see, a handful of guys that want to see them fight each other. And, you know, in the meantime, the rest of the guys can build themselves up. But even for a casual boxing fan, right? You talk about the welterweight division, you think of only 4 real names out there that you can really stand out. There's Norman, there's Barrios, there's Boots, and there's Stanionis, you know? So you think about it, you're like, dude, why are we beating around the bush? Just make Barrios and Norman and make Boots and Stanionis. That's it. And the welterweight division, as barren as it seems to have become, you make those 2 fights, put it on one card, you have a welterweight blockbuster show already. I know. Market values and all these other things ruin it. And the way the market works, ruin it. Cross-promotional rivalries, cross-network rivalries don't let these things happen. really a simple fix. Make the damn fights and people watch. That's all it is, really. And even the most idiot boxing fan knows that those are good welterweight fights. Even if the welterweight division isn't your first thing on your mind right now when you think of great fights to make, or you think of, oh, boxing's so exciting right now. Yeah, you don't usually think of the welterweight division, but make those fights, and bro, people will get excited about not just a boxing match, but the welterweight division in general. It's so simple, but it's that we get this crap. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Paulie, first off, you're a great matchmaker. You got to get into that business at some point in your life. But Tim, I got to ask you, if you're in charge, if you're a manager for Boots Ennis, are you going up to 54? He's always been a big 47, a lot of talent at 154. Are you thinking about that move rather than rematches of fights you've already had before?
I'm gonna go where the money's at. That's what I'm gonna tell him. Hey, let's go where the money's at 54. Let's go. Let's leave 147 because there's nothing for us to do here. Speaking of that the Norman fight, just understand this, folks. And the reason why it's so hard to make these fights is that every promoter has their agenda. They have an agenda. And if it doesn't match up with the other promoter's agenda, then a lot of these fights are not going to get made. Norman, you got to think about it. He's 23 years old. He got basically emailed the championship. Yes, he fought against Santillan. He did fantastic. He knocked him out. I just feel that, like, he's 23. Why go and take that chance? Fight against Boots. He knows that he's going to lose. This people understands that he's going to lose that fight. You go to Philly, you go to the scorecards. He knows he's going to lose that fight. However, he wanted a certain amount of money that he didn't get. And sometimes you being the fighter, just like Devin Haney. Let me give you an example. Devin Haney, he wanted those belts from Kambosos. What did he do? He took short money. He went overseas, not once, but twice to receive that money. That short money, but to get those belts. So if Boots really wanted this fight, it wasn't Eddie Hearns who had to give extra money. It was Boots who should have said, all right, you want the extra $500,000? I want that title. Here you go. Go ahead and take a little bit of my cut. I'll take a gamble because I believe I knock you out or beat you, and the fight's going to get made. All it was $500,000. Now when you go and you look at this purse bid that Eddie Hearns just lost, now, everyone's saying, well, oh, look at Eddie Hearns. Look what he's doing to you, Boots. Eddie Hearns is not in the business to lose money. He's not in the business. He's in the business to make money. So the fact that this fight is supposed to happen somewhere, we don't know, with a different promoter. If me being Boots' manager, you know what, guys? We done at 47. We're going to move up to 54 where guys actually like to fight, and it's about that action, and we're going to operate there, and we're going to try to take over that division. Because guess who's there? Terrence Crawford.
Last question before we go, Chris. How competitive? I know you're a fan of Boots Ennis. How competitive do you think he is at 54? Let's take Terrence Crawford out of the equation. We just said he might not fight for anybody but Canelo. But 54 in general, is he as good or better than he was at 47?
It's a very tough weight class. Yeah. Very, very deep. A lot of talented guys. And he's going to be giving up size. That's just one of his advantages at 147. He's huge for 147. One of the biggest welterweights I've seen. And on top of that, he's so athletic. But he gets hit. And we saw that in his last fight. We saw that in a lot of these fights. He's willing to get hit with these guys because they're smaller than him. Those 54-pounders, I don't think that's a good idea. He's going to have to adjust his style. He's not going to be able to be so offensive-minded with those 54-pounders, the guys who are talented, the guys who are bigger, and the guys who can punch. So if he doesn't have that size advantage like he has at 47, he's going to have to make adjustments to his style. And it's just tough, man. 54 is going to be a very tough weight class for him to jump right into because it's right into deep waters. Everybody in that weight class is good. There's so many names. And Tim, I agree with you in terms of going to get that money in 54, where's it's at. But man, all right, let me ask you this, Tim. Brian Norman, his team, they took a big chance because there was a decent amount of money in the pot for that Ennis fight. Yeah, he wanted more money, of course, and I understand what you're saying about, yes, he got his title in the email. He's never won his title. He never won his title. He never had that title fight. He didn't get that chance to be like, I'm a world champion and the new, he won the interim title and then was elevated via email. So then going right into a Boots Ennis fight, but it was still, I think it was $1.5 million, something like that.
They said 1.7.
Okay, that money's not going to be around for the, he's fighting on the undercard of Keyshawn Davis's next fight. He's not making anywhere near 1.7. What if he loses to this guy?
Exactly. My point is,
it's a very risky move.
Yeah. It is a risky move, but you got to bet on yourself, and you can't lose. All he has to do is continue to win. That's it. Continue to win. His money will slowly increase. understand this. He's not $1 million fighter yet. His minimums has to get raised before he takes that big ass risk of making that 1.7, because once he gets beaten and he don't have a strap, guess what? He is back on the back of the line. Yep. No one's going to care about Norman. But the fact that he has a title, and if he can build his business, build his fan base, give his hometown fans a fight out there in Atlanta.
Champ, you're talking about the Tim Bradley route. That's a tough way to go, bro. You're talking about that Tim Bradley route. That's a tough way to go. You got to beat everybody.
It is a tough way to go. However, once he establishes himself, then he has security, but he's not established. So why go give Boots Ennis a belt? Why go give him a belt at the end of the day for 1.7? Y'all also got to understand the situation that Norman is in. He's not hurting for money. His family is fine. His dad has a great trucking business. You know, he's never starved in his life. He's never had pro wings and shoes like I did growing up. You know, like he's comfortable. He don't need the money. These guys, trust me, they're going to take their time. Look at his last 4 fights. The only fight that he looked good in was the last fight, Santian fight. But 3 fights before that, he looked terrible.
He was on his way to lose to Boca Chica, a guy who was on our air. That's what I mean.
So
he can lose any one of these fights.
Hey, he's young. Build your brand, young man. Build it. But I'm gonna tell you this: if you lose, the plan backfires. You can't lose.
Yeah, because he could have got the 1.7. He could have got the 1.7 instead. And even if he lost looking good, he would have hung around the top of the elevated level of the
division. He would have got another payday down the line. Listen, he loses this next one, or loses any one of these fights. 1.7 is long gone. Long gone. He'll never see that money again.
Champ, one more thing, Champ, Chris. One more thing. When you were talking about whether Boots should go to 154, and then you said, yeah, but you did the but you said they're talented, but. No, just leave it at that. He's talented. They're talented. Leave it at that. Boots go to 154 and get all these fights.
We'd love to see a gentleman at 154 pounds. What could he do? It's a huge question. We stay at 47, which is right now a wasteland, and can it be salvaged? All about the future of Boots Ennis. As soon as we know, we'll let you know here on Top Stories here at ProBox TV. Download the app. Never fall behind in your boxing news. And don't forget, next weekend, September 14th, Mexican Independence Day. Declare your independence. Watching Canelo. Here he is.
He's the pride of Guadalajara, the Mexican maestro, the unified super middleweight champion of the world, Canelo Alvarez. His challenger, undefeated knockout artist and pride of Puerto Rico, Edgar Berlanga. It's prime time.
Canelo versus Berlanga, plus Lara versus Garcia. Saturday, September 14th, live on PBC pay-per-view on Prime Video.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.